LIR.com, 927LIR.com, and YouTube. I am John Kalaboukas, the Bouk, with my friend Paul Zubulake, Zoobie. So we are back after being off for 2 weeks. And
Yes.
as always, when we're off for 2 weeks, there is so much to talk about, especially in the NFL, Major League Baseball. I mean, there is just so much to go over here. But I want to wish everyone a happy new year.
Yes, John. Get to that. Yes, we did take a little holiday hiatus, so hopefully everyone will be watching this episode, and we'll catch up because again, it's been a few weeks. As John said, lots to talk about. So, John, I mean, we just have to start with the NFL and the tri-state area because this is something to behold, John. What has happened since we last spoke to both teams? So, which one do you want to tackle first? Because I'll go either way, John. The Giants are so
Uh,
intriguing. I'll even talk about them first.
I want to start with the Giants' stupidity. I don't know who's dumber, the Giants or the Patriots, because both idiotic moves to win games. I mean, I'm going to say that they pulled the Jets. They actually pulled a Jets. Both of them pulled the Jets. Terrible.
That's actually a good place to start, right? I actually thought you were heading to the coaching situation, but you're right. Ultimately, that's pretty much the biggest news because the last time we were on, the Giants had sole control of the number one pick and the control of the whole draft and a win against a Colts team. I don't know. They didn't show up. Drew Lock played like this amazing game. And the Giants have given now we're picking third. And believe it or not, the Tennessee Titans, John, who never really owned that number one pick until the last week.
And what's the amazing thing is that Kraft is trying to play it off that, when he fired Mayo, that, oh, yeah, I was thinking about this for a long time. I'm saying, well, yeah, you're thinking about because Vrabel is available. But number two, your coach won on the last day of the last game of the year, and you lost your number one pick. I mean, I'm telling you, I am stunned how stupid these two teams are. Stupid. And
Well,
and the funny thing is with the Titans now, they don't now that they have the number one pick, they fired their general manager that they just gave a freaking 5-year extension to. The guy has 4 years left. You talk about wow.
John, we
Wow.
we're gonna get to the
Wow.
coaching carousel. Let's get to the coaching carousel and the Tennessee Titans. Not that the tri-state area cares, but it is worth bringing this story up because we did talk about this about a year ago about the owner's situation. And the funny thing is, John, and we do have female fans who do watch Bouk and Zoobie and listen to Bouk and Zoobie. And we are always happy and we really appreciate everybody checking us out, right, John? YouTube.com, Spotify.com. Got to search the show, right? Bouk and Zoobie, Boukzoobie are our friends at the world famous LIR.com, 927LIR.com. We really appreciate them hosting our content since the beginning, John, as we're creeping, I guess, getting closer to the 100th episode. I don't know where we are, but we will make sure
87.
that 87, we'll make sure we note that. But anyway, so I, as always, wanted to thank everybody and subscribe, please. Like the episodes, it drives the algo, and we are a word of mouth show. So hopefully people enjoying the content. But to kind of quickly just hark back to that, the Tennessee Titans have they have the only female owner in the NFL, John.
That's right.
And when they made those moves last year, we did actually talk about it and getting rid of Vrabel being the story, and to see the absolute U-turn on the GM, like you said. And they made a lot of moves to be good, and that's the reason. But yeah, this these owners, and we'll get to the king of them soon.
Oh, please.
But yeah, not a great job for the first round pick. I mean, it really was amazing, John. It really was. Like you said, it was a hot potato at the end. And, again, there's not maybe a clear cut number one pick. Obviously, the Pats are not in the quarterback derby, but you still control the draft and then you control the trading and where you can get a king's ransom sometimes for that number one pick.
That's right. That's right. And the what I again, I'm sorry to keep talking about the Titans. What annoyed me the most is, so this guy was good enough for you to give him this massive extension, and now you don't trust him to make your pick for you. That's basically what you said. You don't trust the guy to make your pick. So how is this going to happen now? Who is going to make the pick? Who's going to? I mean, it's
They're going to hire a
crazy.
GM, John. So that I mean, I would we don't want to like segue right away to the coaching searches and the GM search with the Jets, but the Tennessee Titans have now joined the Jets as looking for a GM. Um, Again, two terrible franchises. Let's face it. And then the coaching situation where Antonio Pierce, as we predicted on this show, not I don't know how hard that prediction was, but some people really thought he was coming back. He got canned
We never thought he
today.
was coming. We never thought he was coming back. You and I said right away, there's no way.
Right. So we're taping the show on Tuesday the 7th. As always, taping Tuesday, dropping Wednesday morning. So the teams, I've got them listed here, John. Jacksonville, Chicago, New England, the Raiders, the Jets, and the Saints currently looking for head coaches. Funnily enough, the Titans are looking for a GM and not a coach, which is even more comical. But yeah, let's get off
Well,
the number one pick, and unless you have one last comment of the number one
no,
pick, go for it.
there's actually one more coach
Oh, there
that,
is more. Who else? Who did I
well,
miss?
no, that will be coming available because his contract is up on the next week, 1 week from now, actually, is McCarthy.
Right.
He's already speaking to the Bears. He's
That's
already
it's
speaking
that's
to the Bears. They're asking for. He's going to go speak to the Bears. It's a.
well, John, Jerry Jones is the Captain Chaos of the NFC, but at least he's got a Super Bowl in his pocket from his
Right.
early days. But
Yep.
I mean, they've been awful forever. He gave Dak Prescott that crazy contract.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't even know if he wants to fire him, keep him. They're a mess, John. The Cowboys, America's team's a mess. So you're right.
Yeah.
So the Cowboys can definitely add to that list. I can't believe the Bears would go in the Mike McCarthy direction. But who knows with these teams? Because again, if you go down that list, it's what else is new for the most part with Jacksonville and the Raiders, the Jets obviously always looking for a new coach. The Saints have been no better. The only one in there from a stable organization is the Pats, where I don't know how in the world they just didn't hire Vrabel last year. He had it in the
He,
contract. There was some talk about that, right? Mayo was the coach in waiting. But and we'll just get to it right now too. Another NFL joke, and I'm going to talk about it right now. The Rooney Rule in the NFL. I mean, I'm sorry, it's a joke.
it's a joke.
We are, I think, as a society, are going back to meritocracy. But at the same time, that doesn't mean the old boys network of the NFL and the way they hire and fire each other, like all these professional sports. I mean, you're foolish as an organization if you're not looking at a wide pool of coaching potential, no matter what they look like, right?
Yep.
So the Pats are making it a joke. So they bring in two minority candidates. And then the day later, they're going to interview Mike Vrabel, and a day after that, he's going to he's going to be the coach.
He's the
So I mean,
coach.
it makes a mockery of the rule. So they shouldn't have the rule. I mean, teams. It's 2025. They should be smart enough to hire the best qualified coach at this point. Making this kind of like it's really. I think it's tough for the guys who have to go through it. You're going up for this interview and, with Robert Kraft and his son, knowing that you're not getting the job.
Right. Right. I mean, well, and that was the point I think with Flores suing, suing away because he felt like it. he was discriminated against, and I think he still thinks he's been discriminated against.
Well, the funny thing
I
with
mean,
Flores
and
was
bottom
he
line is, you're right. Those interviews are a sham. They're a total sham. Oh yeah, let's bring in a couple to get them out of the way, and then say, okay, now we're going to really do the search.
But John Flores was the wrong guy to sue the NFL. He was a head coach.
No,
He
I know
was
that.
a head coach.
I
It
know
should
that.
be
I know.
a black assistant who's never gotten a chance. And then he
Right,
just is like, I'll sue because I've never gotten an opportunity. I don't think
right.
he's going to win the lawsuit, and it's not going to help him, obviously, get a job. This argument like, oh, they get to meet them, they know for the future. I mean, Bob Kraft, he's like eight. How old is he? He's in his 80s. And, he'll get a pass, of course. I just feel bad for the guys who are going for the interviews. I
Yeah,
mean, you could
yeah.
argue, oh, and who wants to, you're going to travel? I mean, did they travel to up to Boston or to Foxborough? Maybe
Yeah,
not. Maybe they're doing it via
and
Zoom. It's not a
but
big
but
deal.
but it's funny what the Patriots are saying is, again, some of these writers, I don't know how they can call themselves writers. They just make up stuff. So they're saying, oh, Vrabel has a big competition because Johnson from the Lions has a good shot of getting the position at the Patriots. I said, Vrabel's your coach there. Why are we wasting time? We already know he's going to be the coach.
He's going to be the coach by the end of the
He's
week.
going to be the
So,
coach. That's it. What do
of
we?
course he is. Of
Why
course
write
he is.
about? Oh, he's going to have competition. I mean, I could use a
John.
different analogy, but it's a baseball analogy that I'll use later. So,
Well, no, I'm just the point is the Patriots and whoever's writing these articles, it makes Bob Kraft look a little better because he's considering Ben Johnson too. So it's not just about the Rooney Rule because if it does turn out that they hire two minority candidates, I'm sorry, interview two minority candidates and they hire Vrabel the next day, he has to deal with the reality of how that
right,
looks, and it's
right.
not his fault. Again, it's about the
Oh,
league.
Vrabel's the best candidate out of there. I mean, the, what's amazing to me is how fast these guys fall out of favor. Like Peterson was like the person that everyone wanted when after he was with the Eagles, and now he's like,
Yep.
I don't know, maybe he's going to become another retread.
There's no doubt about that. So anyway, so we got to get to the locals. We have to talk about their coaching
Well,
situation. Well, I guess
I
we'll start with the Giants, right? Because nothing
yeah,
changed, and
nothing
that
changed.
is just. Again, we're not Giant fan folks, and we should have a Giant fan on talking about this. We have plenty of time to talk about it because Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are coming back after a absolute disastrous 3-14 season. If I'm a Giant fan, I'm just sitting here saying, okay, who are we hiring in 2026?
Yeah,
They just don't
it
have the players. They don't.
they
There's no
just
way they can turn it around that quick. I'd be talking about being stunned. What
yeah
are the
they
Giants going to do?
and you know what's the funny thing is today they announced so yesterday they announced that they're going to keep them. Today they say they're going to keep Tommy DeVito. They said he's going to be on the roster next year. I'm like, really? That's what you have to give the Giant fans is Tommy DeVito now?
It's John.
Wow.
I don't know. Again, third string quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. They had the ability to have the top pick, like you said, blew that. Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders are the de facto two players that pretty much everybody thinks are the best two prospects. It's still, we don't know exactly. There could be some other entrants to the draft. Quinn Ewers, I don't think technically from Texas, obviously he's still playing. So he's a possibility, but it's Reach City, John, too. So again, you have the number one pick, you've got the leverage, you own it. Anybody can trade up, then you can get a lot of picks, trade down, and really that's what the Giants need to do. They need to trade down
They do.
and accumulate players, and they're going to probably look the veteran route at quarterback. And there's going to be a lot of Kirk Cousins to the New York area coming up in a few months
You might
with
be
both
talking about
teams.
Derek. You might be talking about Derek Carr too, because he already said he's not going to take a pay cut. He
All
already
right,
said it today.
so
He said it today. And
well,
one
John,
thing about
yeah,
with the Giants, what was very odd to me is you went and played that game against the Colts, which I was watching because I really wanted the Bengals to get in. So I said, all right, knock off the Colts. But then I'm saying to myself, okay, so they knocked themselves. I was laughing when they won that game. I'm like, they just knocked themselves out of the first pick. Then they play the final game, and what were they doing the entire game? Just handing off the ball. All they weren't throwing the ball. They weren't even trying in the last game. Not even trying. Just
And they lost to
crazy
the
stuff.
Eagles, right? That was the game against the Eagles
Yeah,
they lost.
yeah, unbelievable. But the one thing is, like I said, with the Giants, listen, I feel sorry for Giant fans, but we should start feeling sorry for ourselves here because we've been off for 2 weeks, and I think forget about the Rodgers thing. He got his 500. Uh, he actually tied Brett Favre with those 4 touchdowns. So him and Brett Favre have the same amount of touchdown passes. But it's going to come back to Woody Johnson again, where it was revealed that he was making some judgments based on his teenage son's Madden ratings from their video games. I find that just stunning if that's actually true.
Well,
Stunning.
the sad part about it, John, is that Woody Johnson, Captain Chaos, known lovingly on the Bouk and Zoobie show as Captain Chaos. This is not a brand new nickname for Woody Johnson. He's been called that ever since we've been on the air. And John, to say that he's proving this week by week, it's
Unbelievable.
beyond belief. But he had to come out and actually talk about it and say that his son had no influence on decision making. The fact that he even had to address it is embarrassing because it's he should be open and say, "Oh yeah, my son he loves the team. He's up there watching the games with me, like most sons do with their with their dad." But he does not go to Florham Park. So I don't know how much time the kid was spending in Florham Park. That's the real question.
I think another big question is how does he have teenage sons? The guy isn't he in like his 70s or something?
John, come on. I mean, where have you been? Al Pacino has like a 2-year-old. I think he's 82.
But still,
Bill
I'm
Belichick's
hearing
dating a
teenage son. I'm hearing teenage sons, and I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. So he's
But
having him
John,
what at 60? So how old is his wife? 30 years younger than him?
well, Woody Johnson, I believe, was remarried to a younger woman who had they had 2 children. Yes, that's I don't know the age differential. It's not in the
Ooh,
Bill Belichick league of
okay.
and then actually we'll add Mike Zimmer, defensive coordinator in the NFL, who married a young woman, again about only about 30 something years younger, unlike Belichick, who has like we can't keep talking about it, broke the bank with the differential of like
What's the matter with
45
the?
years or something. I mean, it's like
I
beyond
think the
belief.
big question, other than why they're marrying these older guys for money, is what's the mental state of these women that in your 20s you're going to be going out with a guy in their 70s? Come on, man. Oh,
That is
I
interesting.
love him so much. Yeah, you don't love him at all. Okay,
Well,
please.
Belichick is not married, so we'll give him that benefit. But another thing we should point out quickly, John, with the tankathon, because most people thought that the Jets would end up eighth, but in the miracles of miracles, due to the strength of schedule situation, the Jets ended up seventh. So actually winning that last game and beating our friend Father K's Dolphins and kind of obviously knocking them out, even though it was pretty obvious that
Yeah,
Denver was going to win. So that Jet win did not really cost them anything. It was a one spot slide. So yeah, let's just get into the Jets, John, because we are Jet fans, and I think a lot of people watch us want to hear what we're thinking with the Jets. All I could say to the fans out there is how can you get a more entertaining team off the field? On the field, you'll just bang your head up against the wall. So I'll get to them later as the team, but let's talk about Aaron Rodgers, John. We have to. So I don't think we have spoken since the Netflix special has been on, right? We might have mentioned it, right? But
Yeah.
I think I had said I was going to actually watch it. So did you watch Enigma, by the way? Did you watch it?
I watched the first episode and half of the second. I haven't I haven't finished. I actually fell asleep during the second
Well,
part.
yes. So the first episode was excellent, right? It was about his
Yes.
youth. Tremendous
Yes.
episode. The second one, you see that what Aaron Rodgers is dealing with as a person and why the Jets should have never gone anywhere near him is
Yes.
because he freely admits, John, he is trying to find himself. And he
Yep.
does these different things to help him personally. So Aaron Rodgers is about Aaron Rodgers. And the third episode, and I'll tell you where it's not really that much of a spoiler, it ends with opening day in San Francisco. So
Hmm.
that's when it ends. So they did get to him, and let's give Aaron Rodgers a little round of applause because he did play in all 17 games.
Yes, he did. Yes. And listen, he actually was getting better. He was moving better like the past couple of games. You could see he was moving better. As I said over a year ago about Achilles injuries, you cannot come back in 1 year. It takes a year and a half to 2 years, and that's exactly what is happening with him. He's getting better because that's how long it took him to recuperate from this. So, uh, when you look at his final stats, it's not that bad. It's better than what we've had, but
John, I think he hit I
I
know it's a 17 game schedule, but wasn't it like the third best season as from a yardage perspective, right? TD interception ratio. There's only been like the Vinny test of, obviously Joe Namath's great years,
right.
had a couple of great years. Joe, Vinny Testaverde had a great year. Even Fitzpatrick had one really good
Yeah,
year.
that's right.
But the Rodgers year,
Yeah,
statistically based, was actually relatively solid.
yeah, and I
But
don't have any
what do you
qualms
think? Because
bringing him back. I don't have any qualms bringing him back because what do you have? What are you bringing here? Who is going to be the quarterback? And if I actually, it would be great to have Devontae back too. I thought he's a real weapon. He's a real weapon.
well, he's a
Lazard needs to go
okay.
because I can't stand that guy. He still can't catch a pass. He's dropping them all over the place. Um, Wilson just has to get with the program. I know these guys are upset, all these guys, but I say give Rodgers another year. It
Well,
financially, it would work out better for them if they did have him for next year. Because why would you have all that dead cap money?
well, the thing is, it's all dead cap money next year. But if he comes back and they have to pay him, and then
Yeah,
there's a huge dead cap hit the year after,
but they could split
so
it. They could split it
but
after
then
that.
they could split it after that. But it's sometimes and the Denver Broncos just did it, John. They took the dead cap hit for Russell Wilson, drafted a quarterback,
Yep.
and
Yep.
incredibly have made the playoffs. Now they have a really good head coach in Sean Payton. So when every Jet fan was getting on Sean Payton for stating the obvious about Nathaniel Hackett, and probably still shouldn't have done it the way he did it, but he was exactly correct about Hackett
Yep.
and the rest of the Jet staff, who are obviously, I mean, technically have yet to be fired. I mean, Captain Chaos is giving Ulbrich an interview. John,
Why?
I saw it
Why?
as of wait, John, as of like I guess about 20 minutes ago. So I think it was Samini posted on X. They're up to 14 coaching candidates. They actually
14.
14, and I
Wow.
haven't had a chance to look up the 14. They added Darren Rizzi, who is the Saints interim. Who the only interesting thing there is he's a special teams coach, where maybe that's where the Jets need to go. But to me, John, and I've said this from day one, and it won't happen because Woody Johnson's involved, is that the Jets need to bring in a football person to make the decision on
Right.
who to hire. That's what this franchise should be doing, not this ridiculousness where they're having all these coaches interviews and then they're having a few GM interviews.
Yeah.
Now, they are bringing in the guy from Kansas City. I haven't mentioned his name because I had up to this point, and Mike Borgazzi, or I think that's maybe the way you pronounce it, from the Chiefs, who works for their GM, who's Veach, who's a very good GM and works in a high quality organization. Allegedly, John, they're bringing him in. Now, I don't think it's happened yet. That's what I want to see happen. I want that person to make the decision. I don't
Right.
want Woody Johnson and Mike Tannenbaum to make the decision. I mean, Tannenbaum, talk about raking in the fees, John. Every
Oof.
interview he brings in, there's all these expenses. I mean,
Of
unless they're
course.
just doing a bunch of Zooms, I don't know what the heck's going on.
Well, Rex
And
Rex Rex went in today. Rex had his interview today. Rex Ryan had his
let's.
interview.
You want to get to Rex?
Ron Rivera had his
Uh,
interview.
well,
Again, all these retreads. I don't want any of these. Listen, I want if we could get an experienced coach, fine. But it, I mean, it's just going to be a bunch of retreads here.
Well, the
Retreads.
thing, it's so funny you bring that up because if you don't, the argument is you have to bring in experienced. There's an argument there, but if I want championship
Right.
experience,
Right.
just because a guy was a head coach and he got fired, so he's experienced at getting fired. So if you have that attitude, John, you're never going to find
Never.
the next great coach. You're never gonna find him. If it's Ben Johnson, we don't know. Who knows? And there's a bunch of other guys. Todd Monken from the Ravens, who's an older guy. Supposedly he was the guy runner up to Adam Gase. So I mean, they've already kind of interviewed him and did due
Wow.
diligence. Since then, he's been a successful OC for the Ravens. Now he may be coming in. The thing is, he's still coaching. And
Right.
that's what's so funny about all these guys that, like you said, they're bringing in. It's not from the final teams that are not even
Well, they're allowing
non-playoff
them.
teams.
Any team that has a bye, they're allowing
Right,
them to interview them this week. Like
right.
one thing that I read today, you
John,
mentioned
bye.
about
There's only two
Johnson.
teams. There's only
No,
two
no, I
teams that
know,
have
I know.
buys.
No, I know, but they're saying they're bringing in Aaron Glenn,
Aaron Glenn, who's and Johnson fall into that
right?
category.
But
Johnson and has ruled out Johnson
yeah, right. I mean, they already ruled them out already.
because he's not coming to the Jets. John, you think he
No,
wants
I
to
know,
come?
I know, I
He
know.
could pick his job. He's going to come to the Jets and work for Woody Johnson.
Listen,
Oh my,
if they pay
Rex.
him enough,
Let's get to Rex. I mean, and the people I heard, and John, the funny thing about being a Jet fan is that we share our fandom with a lot of TV guys in sports who are Jet fans, right? Mike Greenberg, Rich Eisen, there's tons more, right? That they're
right?
out there and they're Jet fans. So Greenberg comes out today about talking of, and I would that guy. I don't listen to anything he says. I would do everything opposite of whatever he says. He's like talking about like, oh, Rex Ryan and how the Jet fans love Rex Ryan. And it's like, where is he get what Jet fan does he talk to? I mean, honestly, Rex has not coached in the NFL since 2016. His record with the Jets, John, was 46-50. He
The
was
kid,
here 6 years. His best 2 years were his first two
first two,
years.
yeah,
And don't forget, folks, the Indianapolis Colts, to this day, still a mystery why they did it, gave up their undefeated season, laid down, and the Jets won the game and got into the playoffs. If the Colts played it straight, John, the Jets would have never made that first championship
that's
game.
right, that's
So
right.
I'm not criticizing Rex, but he's had his chance. I mean, and this argument that Jet fans love Rex Ryan, honestly, where are they getting this from?
listen, compared to what we've had as coaches since then, I don't know.
Well, that's it. That's the argument. Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's the only argument is look what we've
yeah.
had since him.
Well, Todd Bowles, as now a Buccaneers head coach, John, right? He's made the playoffs, right? 3 years in a row. Is that
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah, yeah,
accurate.
yes,
So
yes.
it's a combination of things. And I mean, would people say that, say Todd Bowles had made the playoffs 3 years in a row with Tampa and then got fired this year? Say he was 500 and got fired. Can you imagine if Jet fans said, "Oh, we should rehire Todd Bowles"? It's the same sort of thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's true. It's true.
What are you doing, man? Go out, hire a football person and have that person make the decision. That's the winning formula. Not this other crap like the Tennessee Titans are doing, where they're keeping the coach and then you're going to saddle the GM with a coach. You're not going to get the best people to come in and take that job. John, this is going to be fascinating how this plays out. But Mike Tannenbaum is going to be the winner, John. He is the winner because his fees are piling up with all these interviews. I mean,
Oh, please.
I guess he's in the interview, right? So it's
He has
Woody
to
and
be.
Mike Tannenbaum. Who else is there?
Right, right. He's conducting it. And you mentioned Rizzi.
Yes,
I was,
Darren Rizzi.
yeah. So I was actually watching that game with the Saints game.
Okay.
Um, obviously because you know, it was the game of the week, and this man is a maniac on the sidelines. Have you ever seen this guy?
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah,
Screaming, yelling, carrying on the whole game, getting in the faces of his players. I would say, who's this nut? So I realized that that's the one that you're talking about.
well, he's getting an interview, John. The chances of him getting the job are, I don't know, sub-zero.
But
I
why
guess
have him come in? Just why? Why bother
John,
then? If it,
because Mike
just to,
Tannenbaum is
if
running the
he,
show.
I don't know, maybe he's charging $1,000 an hour or something. Who knows?
John, he's charging a lot. So the Aaron Rodgers part, I am, a, I just as a Jet fan at our age, we just another rebuild is just something we just cannot deal with. So there's definitely this age gap, but that doesn't mean us old guys think that they should hire Rex Ryan. So I don't know. Mike Greenberg's obviously not going to be checking out the Bouk and Zoobie show, but I just wanted Jet fans out there to know if you're thinking how we're thinking and think the talk of Rex coming back is a folly. So we're putting the stamp on it this week's show. Um, I want personally the best coach available. I don't care if he's experienced as or not as a head coach, because like I said, you're never ever gonna find the next great coach if you have that attitude. So John, we'll be talking about this for the next few weeks. Hopefully we'll talk about some football. I don't know if you have anything else you want to mention
Well,
about
I
the
wanted
Jets or
to
the
ask
Giants.
you. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I
sure.
wanted to ask you. So, what's interesting about Kirk Cousins is that he has, I think it's in 2 months, sometime in mid-March, they have a it's a $10 million.
Yeah,
I
he's
think,
getting released.
yeah.
He's getting released. Yes.
So, if you had your choice between Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, or Kirk Cousins, who would you take?
For 2025 season, right? 1 year. Who would I want out of those three guys? Now, you had mentioned it. The Achilles takes a while. So Cousins proving that he could not come back quick from the Achilles. That sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
yep.
So him and Rogers are almost in the same bucket. I just think that Cousins' personality, he's just too nice of a guy, is going to work in the tri-state. Rogers is a hardened guy. Um, Carr is probably the best selection, but to be honest with you, John, for entertainment and I mean the Jets are such a long shot next year to get to the Super Bowl, and obviously with or without Rodgers included in that. but at least he's going to bring some intrigue. And if he brings Devontae Adams back with him, and they just have to, Garrett Wilson, and I'm going to get to it later, so I'll save it, but
Hmm.
he's got to grow up, John.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he does. So you're going with Aaron Rodgers. So you're with
I'm
me on
going with
that
Raw.
one.
Out of those three, I'm going with Rodgers. I have to say begrudgingly, because I just think that overall he cannot consistently play at a high level. Most of the reason is because of his inability to move, but he has shown
He was
he has a
moving.
little more
Yeah,
life. But he definitely down the stretch was favoring throwing to Adams consistently. So that's something that you got to be a little worried about, to bring the band back again, coming off of 5-12. And will they get buy-in from the whole team? It seems like they like Rodgers, right?
yeah, they do. They
Um,
do.
so he is definitely a popular guy, but I think at the same time, there's a little fear that if you go against him in the locker room, you're going to be kind of on the outside looking in. So some of the guys might have a little thought there that they're just going to have to grin and bear it with him. But yeah, when you're just looking at the overall options and then picking a rookie at 7, um, just say one of those two guys falls, it's possible. I think most people would say take a young quarterback. And then you, in theory, could even bring Rodgers with him. He claims that he would do a good
Mentor.
job for the
Yeah,
kid because the Jets have to get a quarterback for the future, John,
they
and then
do.
they have to sit that quarterback. How many more? It's nonstop in the NFL, right? When they're playing these guys early.
Um, Couple of things. I just thought about it. So remember when Kirk Cousins actually signed this ridiculous contract that we just couldn't believe some of the numbers that were being thrown around? Do you know that he earned for 14 games with the Falcons $90 million? 90. 90.
John.
I have another I'm going to throw another one in the mix here. Sam Darnold.
All right, let's get to Sam.
Jets, would the Jets go after him? Would the Giants go after him?
I think the Giants are much, much likelier home for him than the
Do
Jets.
the
I think the
Jets do
Jets.
the Jets take a second chance on him?
I don't think he wants to come back to the Jets. Sam Darnold is probably going to be the best option for teams looking for a quarterback. Now, Sam's got, we can get to that because we, go right to the around the league and we'll start right there. And I think almost everybody watched that game because let's face it, there was really there was very few quality games,
Yeah,
any games that meant anything. Even the games that meant something, the Commanders kind of like, for seeding, you know, don't play Jaden Daniels like they didn't care about the
right.
seedings. The same thing with
That's right.
Green Bay. They
Yep.
did not care about the seedings. Now the Vikings had no choice but to care because not only is it that win would have given them home advantage and the bye. I mean, what a win for the Lions. But with Sam, he definitely showed some warts in that
Yes,
game
he did.
where he
Yes, he
was
did.
holding on the ball too long and he was inaccurate. And he did miss some guys on that were opened. Um, but they played the Lions, who it's amazing, right, John? We've talked about the injuries on defense. They got Anzalone back,
Yep.
that helped. But it's their offense, which is so dynamic, with Jameer Gibbs just having a spectacular game. And now Montgomery looks like he's coming back, which will help the
Yep.
burden. Because, John, I don't know, as a part Lion fan, especially in 2024, when Jameer Gibbs got laid out by Van Ginkel on that swing pass, I thought he might have been killed on that shot. That was a
Yeah.
brutal hit.
I was saying to myself because I was watching that game, I'm like, oh please. Yeah, he got ripped. He
And
got
speaking of Van Ginkel, there was that crucial play where Goff made a terrible mistake, and Van Ginkel just had the ball in his hands, John.
Yeah, yeah,
That was the turning point, end of game, basically for the Vikes when that play happened. I believe it was in the third quarter, if I remember,
yeah.
where that he could have taken that all the way, which he's done incredibly. I think twice this year. It's amazing that guy's had it. The ex-Dolphin, poor Father K. I mean, and that I guess we'll jump quickly right to the Dolphins, John. But I mean, you're watching that game against the Jets. I know what's going on in Denver, but they shouldn't be scoreboard watching. That was a pitiful effort with no answer at backup quarterback for the Dolphins.
None,
And
none.
then after the game, you know, Tyreek Hill basically trying to shoot his way out of Miami, where he could have stayed with Patrick Mahomes and had a few more rings. I mean, talk about regret, huh?
Yeah, and
Thank God the Jets didn't sign Hill or trade for him. I shouldn't say
yeah,
sign him. Trade, John, trade.
you,
These receivers are
you know one,
unbelievable.
one guy we have to give credit to, and he had a fantastic year was Lamar Jackson. I
Sure.
mean, he. I was looking at his statistics. So he had 4,000. I wrote it down because I was so impressed by it. I didn't realize that it was this amount. 4,172 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 915 yards rushing. I mean, what a year. And by the
I
way,
know.
he's the first quarterback ever to have the over 4,000 yards and the least amount of interceptions like that with the ratio of touchdowns to interceptions. Like have him as the first and the first quarterback to actually have over 900 yards too rushing with those statistics. So there's a lot of
Right.
firsts with Lamar.
Well,
Yeah, great. Yeah. Now can he do it in the playoffs? Because I
well,
picked, if you remember, I picked them against the Lions for the Super Bowl.
right. So that will be part of our show. Yeah, we'll get to that not quickly, but soon. Well, we'll put out because on Bouk and Zoobie we do our preseason picks, and then we do our playoff picks for second chance. You obviously can keep your original pick. I was a complete wimp this year; didn't even pick. I just said go with what Peter Schrager said, who's gotten the Super Bowl right how many years in a row. He actually had Kansas City over Green Bay. Um, I just don't
Mm,
think the pack can get in.
no.
But just to quickly with Lamar, John, he had his best year, but incredibly will not win the MVP in his best year
Yeah.
because he's already won two and Josh Allen hasn't won one. And I think it's time that Josh Allen gets one. That doesn't mean he had a better year, but you could definitely argue he's more valuable because the Ravens just have a better roster.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is people were. It was amazing to me that people were writing off the Ravens with their start. They say, "Oh, what's wrong with the Ravens?" And they just came back and they went right through the division. The Steelers, they manhandled the Steelers. I mean, they just went. They're on a
Yeah,
roll.
they're
They're
going
on
to
a
manhandle
roll.
them again, John. They're going to
Yes, they are.
manhandle them again. So that's good. Yeah, so obviously, this weekend and next are the best weekends for NFL fans where you just have every day. So starting on Saturday, two games on Saturday, including the Ravens Steelers again. I don't think it has a lot of intrigue. I expect the Ravens to win actually easily. The Steelers are kind of falling apart here, which also, again, the annual, the Steeler fans are whining about Mike Tomlin because he hasn't won a playoff game in so long. But when you look at teams that like we root for, we laugh when we hear teams complain about him. Raven fans complain about John Harbaugh all the time.
Yep.
So, the
Yep.
grass is always greener. I'll tell to all those fan bases. So I would expect them to advance. And then, I mean, as last year, I said Kansas City last year just because of one guy. And I would just probably still have to go with Kansas City out of the AFC. But I mean, it's the Ravens or the Bills. Can the Bills finally do it? So I am assuming you're sticking with your Ravens. I can't see why you would change, right? There's no
I'm
way
gonna
to
stick with
change.
no. I'm sticking with the Ravens. It's Ravens against the Lions.
You're going to go with that.
Super
So I
Bowl.
will
I'm sticking
take
with the
Kansas
Lions
City.
too.
Yeah, you'll take Kansas City. I will go with you and take the Lions because they got the home advantage and the bye. Obviously, Dan Campbell is a wild card in the playoffs. And to me, John, that, as we've talked about a few times, how will the coaches play it in the playoffs with their love affair with fourth downs, not going for field goals, 2 point conversions at different times? Let's see how it plays out. But I'll go with the Lions and the Chiefs, and it's just amazing that Patrick Mahomes, who didn't even make the Pro Bowl, John, because of those other guys, and Joe Burrow is the third guy. Can you imagine Pat Mahomes didn't make the Pro Bowl? They should have just put him in as an extra quarterback. Who cares?
Right,
You,
right.
who cares? Have four quarterbacks. What's the difference?
He's
You could
clutch.
call Lamar a running back. I'm sure he would love that. But yeah, I tell you, it's going to be. It really should be. It should be exciting. It really should.
I actually had the chance to because I wanted to see how we did with our preseason picks. Do you want to
Oh,
speak about that? How we
sure.
did
I,
on
I know I didn't do that well
so
this
I
year. Last
so
year I
I
did well.
actually wrote it down.
Okay.
So I have Paul's picks for NFC and AFC.
Uh-oh.
So
This is not going to
you
be
you you, you
fun.
did better with the AFC because you had Kansas City, you had Baltimore, you had Buffalo, and Houston. The other three were the Jets, which we both failed miserably on that.
Oh my God, that would be
Cincinnati, which we
yeah.
almost made it.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
had the Colts.
Yeah, they were another huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So NFC, which I still can't believe you and Father K picked these teams. Falcons,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bears, Cowboys, which I
We
picked.
did,
So,
huh? Oh my
yeah.
God.
49ers, Eagles, Lions, Packers.
Oh my God.
So
Three out
you
of seven,
basically
and okay.
3 out of 7 and 4 out of 7.
All right. How
So
did you do?
my picks on the AFC were Baltimore, KC, Cincinnati, Chargers,
All right.
the Jags. I don't know why I did that.
Oh,
Texans, and the Jets. So I
okay.
was 4 out of 7.
4 out of 7.
NFC, I was five out of
Hopefully.
seven.
Oh, you
I
got
had
five. Okay.
I had the Bucks, Eagles, Packers, Rams, and Lions.
Oh, good job.
The
That's
other
good.
two, I had the Cowboys and 49ers.
Okay. Five out of
So
seven. All right. I think Father K was similar, right, with those numbers, right?
similar,
But
similar.
he didn't have the Jets in. It's good for him. He had his Dolphins. John, I would just love to get his opinion on what's going on. I don't know if you've texted him, but they brought back Chris Greer, the GM, which I'm sure he's probably banging his head against the wall on that one. And also Mike McDaniel gets another shot. That is not that much of a shock. But as I've been kind of saying, John, I'm a big believer in the GM and the coach should be linked together. And when I say GM, that's the football guy. You can give him whatever title you want. To me, they have to be together, and one goes, they both go.
Yep,
Sometimes,
I
obviously, a
agree.
guy in personnel who's just does great and the coach is incompetent. That's completely different. So I can't accept a GM getting multiple hires. I could definitely deal with that. I just hate this one or the other mishmash. And then you have these teams that are bad teams, bad organizations, continuing to do this sort of stuff. And
They
just
don't
you just
learn.
got to they don't learn. Suck it up, owners. Arthur Blank's another example. Very, he's definitely getting up there in age now, so maybe he doesn't have any influence. But that whole fiasco, they signed Cousin to this crazy deal, and then they draft the quarterback anyway. And by the end of the year, Penix is playing, And now next year, obviously, he's the quarterback. So yeah, it's
And
just,
he looked
I
good
mean,
too. And he looked good too.
well, right, but why would you just like? I just, it's to me, it's amazing. Like when you get into the room and you're discussing about what's your strategy. How can your strategy be spend all this money on a free agent quarterback and then draft a quarterback in the top 10? I
Well,
just like
Cousins had the same question, if you remember how he
right,
reacted
right.
after that happened, right?
Right. And him coming off. So I don't know why would you and who are you bidding against to give him that crazy contract?
Right.
So now the next team who gets Cousins, because he's not retiring, is going to get him with another year of rehab. So he's probably going to be better. And now you're not going to have to pay him a lot.
That's right.
So
That's right.
he actually, and as much as I don't want any part of him with the Jets, just because they had a chance at that once and they passed. And I still thought I didn't think it was a good decision then on his first contract when we signed with the Vikings. And I'm going to sign him now 5 years, 6 years later. I mean, you just got to move on. The Jets need a quarterback. It's unfortunately they're in a situation that it's gonna be a multi-year rebuild post Rodgers. If they cut him immediately, I, I don't think it's immediate because Captain
No.
Chaos did say that the new regime is going to decide if they're going to keep Rodgers. So okay, there you go, Woody. If that's what you want to do now and give these people the authority that they deserve and they need, and for you just to stay out of the way and just basically give them a budget and say go at it. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
worry about uniforms and stuff like you always did. And if your kid wants to intern in player personnel or something, let him freaking intern in player personnel, and let him do all the grunt work for the guys, and that's it. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. The guy owns the team, right, John? He could do
That's
whatever he
right.
wants.
That's right. He could do what he wants.
But does he want to be successful or not? That's another story. So we've been going. We're like wildly late already, right? We got
Yep.
so much that we can't even get to much. John, quickly, the only reason I'll bring it up is because it's halfway through the season. The NHL does not exist in the New York area. The Devils are the only game in town. I'll just leave it at that. And that's where the Rangers and the Islanders are, out of the playoffs and looking like in deep, deep trouble.
Yes.
Both teams should be selling at the trade deadline. But let's quickly get to the Knicks, and then we have to talk about baseball. Unfortunately, college football is going to get the short stick, and that's just the way it goes. So
Yeah.
let's talk Knicks. What do
Well,
you
the Knicks,
think?
the Knicks had a nice winning streak, but they were, not very strong teams that they were being. So they had to face the Thunder. They looked great for 3 quarters. They looked great for 3 quarters. By the way, I can't see any of the games because Optimum and MSG are fighting each other, so
Yeah,
I
I'm in
cannot
the
see the
same
Knicks.
boat. Yeah,
Can't see
that's
the
such.
Knicks. And they say, "Oh, we're going to give you an alternative." So Fubu or whatever it's called, Fubo,
Fubu
whatever the
TV.
hell it's
Fubu.
called. They said, "Oh, we have an alternative for you." So I said, "All right, let me check out Fubu." So they give you a 7 day free. That's it, seven
Yeah.
days. And then if you want to see the Knicks, you got to pay $30 a month. I'm like, why? First of all, shouldn't Optimum be giving me some type of refund here now that the Knicks and the Rangers are not on? I should be able to get some type of refund. Okay.
I've already gotten my $30. And then you'll laugh, somebody I know got $60. So it's a one-time credit type of thing, but that was just for the 1 month. I'll be calling again. Yeah, that John is really embarrassing, and it's a bad development for the tri-state area who has to deal with this sort of stuff, unfortunately, on a regular basis. I thought that Altice, when they bought Cablevision, was all about the a la carte model. Buy what you want, right? Please make it buy what you want.
Yeah.
And cutting the cord and getting the Gotham Sports app, which is another monopoly driven thing. Like, how do they get 30? They want $30 a month for all of their stuff. But these franchises, John, they have to realize it. You get used to not watching, right?
Yeah, that's
And then
correct.
guess what? You don't care as much.
That's
That's
right.
the downfall for the teams.
Yeah.
So they
So
better
I
get
haven't
their act
seen
together.
any. So I haven't seen any of these games. All I could do is I go on YouTube and I look at the whatever the highlights of them.
That's okay. You're right. Right.
That's what I see 8 or 9 minutes of each game, and I see okay, this. So clearly, from reading about what happened with the Thunder, they ran out of gas. It seems like every single game they're talking about them running out of gas and that they don't have a bench, which I
Well,
agree with. They
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 don't.
really need more of a bench now, and they need someone coming off the bench that can score. They have this guy Warren that actually did very very well during the preseason. He's a veteran. Everyone thinks because he's in the G League that he's a rookie. He's not a rookie. He's been around. They should bring him up now. They need some scoring with this team. They really do. Because that second, the backups, they're not really scoring much. And listen, as far as I'm concerned, McBride, fine. Achua, fine. But then what else do you have, really? If you don't get Robinson back, we actually missed DiVincenzo. We could have used him off the bench if we had
Well,
DiVincenzo. It wouldn't
I
have been
mean,
a bad. But
Towns
anyway,
missed. Towns missed the last game, right?
he did. He did. He did.
Okay.
And you have to expect that too because he's a big guy. It's sort of like the same thing with Patrick Ewing. The knees are starting, the big guy like that, your knees are going to start aching. He
So
needs a
was
day
that?
off.
It was a
His
maintenance
knees.
day. It was maintenance day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he'll be back. All right. Well, we
So,
don't, John, we don't have
but
a lot of
anyway, they
time to
look
talk
they
about the
look
Knicks,
good.
especially since they're not on. So we should almost
Yeah.
ignore the MSG teams until they settle
Yeah.
this with cable
Yeah.
vision, I still call them. But let's get to what everybody has been waiting for, John, because you are the man to keep us all involved in what the heck is going on in MLB and Pete freaking Alonso. So now let's do it with baseball with Bouk.
Yeah, we may as well start off with Pete Alonso because his crazy, crazy agent, and a couple of writers revealed this, said that his ask for Pete Alonso, he wants a Prince Fielder type of contract. And if people don't know who Prince Fielder was, he was a very large first baseman, good player, but home run hitter, drove in runs, fine. He didn't even make it through half of his contract, not even half of his contract. So what Boris is asking for Alonso, 9 years, $214 million. So this is what they're asking here, and uh, day by day, Pete Alonso's value is falling just like my A1C is, right to the ground. All right. I'm gonna use that analogy because I at least I'm feeling better, but Alonso cannot be feeling better here. I actually wrote down teams that would even look at him. I have Cubs, Giants, Mariners, and maybe the Red Sox. Outside of that, first of all, none of them are going to give them this type of contract.
Right.
What I think would be fair is 6 years, 5 years, 135 million. He should be happy and say thank you God if the Mets give him that type of offer. I mean, Carlos Baergas keeps saying, "Oh yeah, they offered him 390." I don't believe that for a minute. There's no way that the Mets are going to bid against themselves and give him $30 million a year. No way, even on a short-term deal. So I still think they're going to sign him, but all these other teams. I mean, you look at the Yankees. They got Goldschmidt 1 year for $12.5 million. Is he gonna? I think he'll do fine with the Yankees. Everyone's going after Guerrero next year. If he's not traded, that's the guy that the Yankees are going for. All these other teams, the short-term deals, they're all going after Guerrero. The Blue Jays have I mean, you talk about a team that has totally mismanaged their players. Not to give Bichette or Guerrero extensions a couple of years ago when you had the chance. So, and I actually had someone ask me, number one, would I want Guerrero, which is a crazy question. Of course I want. What would I give up for Guerrero? Any prospects that they want from us, they can have. Okay? You want it, and everyone keeps, again, everyone keeps talking about Mark Vientos like he's the next coming of, I don't know, that he's going to be a 40 or 50 home run guy. I mean, we, he had a good year. Yes, he had a good year. But why is everyone so worried about Mark Vientos going to first and go? We talked about this last week. If the Blue Jays want Mark Vientos, if they want Brett Beatty, if they want Mauricio, if they want Acuna, goodbye. If you get Guerrero out of this, goodbye, four guys. And if you want to throw in McGill, throw it in. They want a starting pitcher, give it to him. And then sign Guerrero. That's it. Oh, and what's going to happen with Alonso? Everyone, okay, if we get Guerrero, that would be a nice problem to have, okay? We have Guerrero. Oh, what's going to happen to Alonso? DH. Let Guerrero play first. I mean,
All right.
we
Well,
did
I
this
don't
with
think it's going to happen though, right?
no, but
Yeah,
I'm saying if he's giving Guerrero is giving the Blue Jays until the start of spring training, which is less than a month from now, to or a little bit more than a month from now, to sign him to an extension. It's not going to happen. They've totally undercut him, so they're going to have to trade him. Why not the Mets? They want prospects. They want players ready to play on day one. Give them these players. Give them.
all right.
Give them
All
all
right.
our prospects. We did it with Carter. You know, I remember when we got Gary Carter and everyone was worried about how much the Mets gave up for Gary Carter. That worked out pretty well.
I don't even
You
remember who
know,
they gave up for Gary Carter.
you remember
No, I don't remember.
Mike
Remind me.
Fitzgerald,
Okay.
Floyd Humans. Uh, I think it was Hubie Brooks. Wasn't
Oh, it
Hubie
was
Brooks part of
Brooks,
that
right?
trade?
I think so. I
And
think
then
so.
there was a fourth player. I forgot who the fourth player was. But everyone was saying, "Oh, look how much the Mets gave up for a 31-year-old catcher." Like it's Gary Carter. It's Gary Carter. So when we talk about these major players, let you know, let let's not get crazy here. Worried about what Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos was almost off the team last year when they gave Beatty the starting job. So I still think they're going to get Alonso. What was an interesting was Tanner Scott. They actually spoke to him. They've been negotiating with him. I've been talking about that from day one here. Is if you can have a two-headed monster, you can have Diaz closing on one day. Tanner Scott would be a great pickup if they're willing to pay him. Great pickup. So another thing we spoke about, I was off by a year, was the re-signing of Sean Manaea. Got,
Yes.
uh, I thought it was going to take 4 years, 100 million. It took 3 years and 75 million. But what was interesting is 23 million of that is going to be paid out over 10 years, starting 2035 with no interest. So the value of that is about 22 million a year. So the Mets did pretty well on that. I think they did a great job. And then they have this guy Canning that they signed that they're going to try to make him into. I shouldn't say try. He's a starting pitcher for the Angels. Has great stuff, but can never put it together. Is Canning 1 year, 4.25 million. So a lot of signings. I know we don't have the time, but I want to acknowledge two players that passed away. One of them we knew. Uh, Actually, both of them played for the Mets. Lenny Randle passed away.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
Lenny Randle. And of course, Ricky Henderson, which was
Right.
a shock. I mean, you talk about a guy that was in peak physical condition, and he ended up dying from pneumonia. great player. I mean, just a great player. I mean, you look at his stats. There's no way that anyone is going to come anywhere near that stolen base record. He's over 1,400 steals, over 1,400. That's that's one that you'll never see anyone pass that. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's so funny because I'll think of, Ricky, obviously, like you said, he was a Met, but Lenny Randle, the same sort of thing. So I'll throw a thing. What is the two things? I remember two things about Lenny Randle that one was on the field. They actually were both on the field. Do you remember what he's kind of really
Yeah,
like
oh yeah,
known
well,
for? Do you
yeah,
remember?
well, Lenny Randle when he wasn't with the Mets, the famous blowing on the baseball, he blew it as a foul ball, and then
Very good.
when he was with the Mets, he was actually batting, and we had the blackout in New York City.
Oh, was he? Okay, that I didn't. That was mine because I believe he played all eight positions in a game. Do I have that right? Did Lenny Randle play all eight
For the
positions in a
Mets,
game?
for the Mets.
No, I don't think it was with the
Oh,
Mets, but
oh, oh, oh!
he's.
I thought you
They,
said with the Mets. Um, oh, that's a good one. I don't know.
all right, well, look that up. I kind of think that he did do that late in his career. He played every position outside of pitcher in a game. I'm not 100% sure, so we
And
will
he was
look that
and
up. Sorry to hear. I always loved
well,
Lenny Randle.
yeah, I used to love and if you remember, let's see how good you are with your. So, how did the Mets end up getting Lenny Randle? What happened that caused the team that he was with to trade him? Do you remember?
Yeah, he got into a. Didn't he get into a fight at a bar? Is that true, or am I way off with that?
No, he
Yep.
actually went after Frank Lucchese
Oh,
and
he
actually
went after his manager. Yes,
he,
yeah,
he punched him, and
yes.
so they, we end up getting him. But he was actually very good for the Mets. I liked him as a player with the Mets.
That is true. Good job, John. Good job. All right, man.
So, but I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, again, a lot of signings. We could talk about it next week, and hopefully we'll
We'll
get
catch
something
up.
new with the Mets. But now we have to get our rant of the week.
Thanks, John. This one's going to be quick because we're short on time, and like John said, we'll definitely get to more stuff next week. Now that we'll be back on our regular schedule, dropping episodes on Wednesday. But this is just a message, and we're back to the green team, the New York Jets. But this is a different angle. This is to a message to the young nucleus on this roster to go home right now. They're already obviously home already to think about what they can do to become better players. So let's go. I'm going to go through the nucleus quickly. We'll start with Sauce Gardner. Sauce, get in better physical condition, add some weight, and please hit the jugs gun on a daily basis. Your hands are horrible. Garrett Wilson, grow up, man. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. It's okay that you may not be the number one dog. It's not all about you. You got a ton of talent, kid. Don't worry about stuff like that. I think he's definitely most salvageable because I do think he is a really good player, and he does want to win. Quinnen Williams, dude, get in better condition. John, this guy is everybody loves him. Well, guess what? His high percentage of snaps in 2024 was 82, the high. Normally, he was in the high 60s, low 70s, meaning he was off the field every third play. Just to throw a quick couple out there, Jeffrey Simmons, who plays for the Tennessee Titans, John, he had 11 games over 80% of the plays, and he was in 95% was his high snap count.
Wow, wow.
Chris Jones, high percentage was 94%.
Wow. Wow.
Quinnen, you got to get in better condition. Jer- Jeremiah Johnson, not Jeremiah Johnson, Jermaine Johnson. Why do I always want to call him Jeremiah Johnson? Jermaine Johnson, just get healthy, bud. It was so unfortunate that you got hurt. I love
Yep.
this guy. I think
Yep.
he cares. I hope he comes back fighting. Last guy, Brees Hall. You got tons of talent, bro. Hold on to the ball. You had 7 fumbles in 2024.
Yeah.
Ball security. Tiki Barber did it, changed his career, now borderline Hall of Famer. All those guys, John, and there's more. Those are the nucleus of this team. Those guys have to look themselves in the mirror and become better players. And that is the rant of the week.
And I'm glad you brought up about Mr. Williams' physicality in a way, because if you remember, I told you that he needed to lose weight, and it showed. He was huffing and puffing away. So I'm glad you picked that up. And it's a great rant because you're right on target with all of them, right on target. The hands, really with Wilson, confidence was shot by the end of the year, just totally shot. And you're right on target with all of them, right on target. Let's just pray that we get a good GM and a coach. That's our next thing.
All right, John. Who do you got to thank?
Anyway, as always, thank you to our producer, Zach Zubulake, and to our loyal listeners and viewers. Keep the feedback coming. We love to hear from you. Also, thanks to our community partners, Ronald McDonald House, Kids in Seats, and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. We'll see you next week.